Welcome back. It's time to take our talents up to the first great state of Delaware for our Henlopen game of the night. Delmar and Cape Henlopen, two teams sitting at 2-2 coming into tonight, trying to get on the winning side of things. The Wildcats and Vikings both got off to a slow start in the first quarter. Neither team scored. The defense ruled the first, and so did penalties. But things began to turn around as time went on, and that's starting with this play right here. Joe Kolovetsky throws it downfield, but Wildcats, Takai Hugie comes up with the interception. Hugie does it on both sides of the ball. Wildcats ball, and now we're going to jump to the second quarter. Gavin Powell is going to run a fake, find Anthony Jackson, who makes the beautiful sliding grab. Look at that.
That's pretty.
That was very pretty. It was good. Now, end of the drive, Hugie is going to get the carry and is going to find his way into the end zone, makes a man miss, and that's for 6 points right there. Wildcats go up to a touchdown, 7-0, but Cape is going to get those points back in a hurry. I mean, the very next play, Charles Fritchman is going to return the kickoff back. He might go all the way. Touchdown. Game is tied at 7.
All right, 50 seconds left in the half. It's Kovalevsky making up for the earlier pick with this dime to Thomas Messick. In between two defensive backs, makes a cut, finds his way into the end zone. Cape up 14-7. Momentum on their side going into the second half. Hey, and this half was dominated by this kid right here, number 7, Marquis James with the Vikings. Runs this one in easily. He would go on to dominate this game in the second half. 4 touchdowns. We'll hear from him later tonight. Cape smokes Delmar in the second half, winning 42-14. And oh boy, was I wrong about this one. I had people ask me, why do you have Delmar over Cape? And I was like, well, you know what? Delmar and Cape play tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll
see what happens. Man, we saw what happened.
Yeah, Cape was on a different level tonight. It was a great game.
That's the thing about different classifications.
Right.
You know, a 3A school taking on Delmar in 2A, and, you know, Cape just was the better team tonight.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, the classifications brings that context in, because before they were both 2-2, both 500. If you just looked at the records, you would think that it was closer. And it was close at first. I mean, the first quarter, neither team could score. They played great defense, but then that second quarter, Cape just started turning it on. And Marquis James, as you mentioned, was taking over the second half. It was amazing.
Yeah, he sure was. Kid's got a lot of speed, and we see another talented running back in the first 8. This time it's Marquis James. All right, let's move on now to our next game down in Dagsboro.
Absolutely. It was Indian River hosting the state runner-ups of the 1A St. Elizabeth. Now, these two teams were on 2 different levels from kickoff, and it showed, and that man right there is a big reason why. Quasim Benson went ham over IR on the ground. He accounted for the first 28 points of St. Elizabeth, and that was all in the first half. That's right. He ran in 4 touchdowns on the ground before the third quarter even began. Now, Javion Chandler would get himself a score on a 4th and goal run right there for IR, cutting the deficit to 14 points at that point in the game in the second quarter. But Benson and the Vikings from St. Elizabeth were way too much on the ground for IR to handle. You see this run right there would set up St. Elizabeth for another goal line run, as St. Elizabeth would win by 25. You see, that was his 4th and final touchdown of the first half for Benson. He might be one of the best back, well, might be the best back in the state, definitely one of the best backs in Delaware.
We've got quite a few really good running backs in Delaware, and we don't see Benson very often. He's from Wilmington, up with St. Elizabeth, but we saw him score plenty of touchdowns last year, and we'll talk about him a little bit. But now let's move on to our games from last night. To Milford, the Bucks hosting Sussex Central. Christopher Shields gets the call, and he barrels into the end zone there for Central, and that's going to give Central the 28-point lead. Milford looking for a response on 4th down. John Hudson goes down the middle for Andrew Kravitz. Great job hanging on to the ball there. 3 seconds left. Here's one more play. Hudson over the middle finds John Case for the touchdown, but that would be the only points of the game for Milford. Here's an early candidate for Athlete of the Week. Andrew Long for Sussex Central gets them on the board right here with this touchdown run, one of 4 touchdowns on the night for him. As the Knights dominate the second half, they go on to win 49-6 over Milford.
Now moving over to some more Thursday night action. Laurel taking on the Blue Raiders. We saw the state champions in action yesterday. Laurel will start this game off strong against Woodbridge. Caden Shockley is going to hand it off to Kylese Wilson, another great running back from Delaware. And he fights through the traffic and he gets in for 6. Laurel gets on the board and takes a 7-0 lead early in the first quarter. But it wasn't just the offense who showed out. DeMontra Smith getting the sack for a loss of yards. The defense was great in this game too. Woodbridge was forced to punt this one away, and Laurel just kept their foot on the gas. Shockley fakes this handoff and runs it in himself for the touchdown. Laurel goes up 14-0. That would be the story in this game. Laurel dominates the Blue Raiders in a final score of 42-0.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the scores from around Delaware. Appoquinimink goes to Dover, and the Senators looked really good tonight, taking down the Jaguars 27-14. Smyrna takes care of St. George's easily, 42-6. Sussex Tech takes care of Brandywine, 35-6, the final score up there. And Salesianum wins 46-8 against Caesar Rodney.
Yeah, IR did not look as good today as they did last week in their win over Seaford. And I think St. Elizabeth just showed that they're on another level tonight. And it looks like they're on a crash course to rematch with Laurel in the 1A state championship game. I know there's other contenders maybe that can kind of knock them off course. Maybe Seaford and, maybe some other teams. But St. Elizabeth is the first time that I saw them this year, and they looked really good.
They were impressive.
Completely different level. I think the only team that I've seen from the 1A that even looks on their level, top to bottom, is the Bulldogs, which is why they met in the championship last year in the 1A.
All right, I'm going to go through all 3 classes right now. I think Smyrna is clearly the top team in the 3A, but then we also have Sussex Central and Dover.
Yep.
And then Cape, you got to watch out for Cape. They're pretty sneaky this year. I think that they have a chance to continue to grow as the season goes on. The Henlopen is very strong up north this season.
Yeah.
The 2A, however, pretty lackluster. Coming into the season, we were hoping that Woodbridge would, have something going like they did last year. They've really fallen off this year.
They're complete, just like we talked about how Easton is a completely different team in the positive sense this year, while Woodbridge is the exact opposite.
Yeah, they have gone the complete other way, and right now Caravel looks like they're dominating that 2A District 3. The thing is, Caravel 5-0. They'll be playing Henlopen teams for the next 4 weeks. We'll see if the Henlopen can make any sort of dent there in the 2A. But down in the 1A, St. Elizabeth, like you said, is legit. Quasim Benson, one of the best running backs in the entire state, and he wasn't healthy for that title game last year against Laurel. So I think the 1A once again comes down to Laurel and St. Elizabeth more than likely. But one team that's interesting in the 1A is the Odessa Ducks, who are a very young team. They've won 3 straight games before tonight, all by shutouts, and we'll see them come down to Laurel next Saturday for a game. Can't wait to check that one out.
Absolutely.
Because that'll be a good test for Laurel. And
sure
Laurel has not been tested this year. And I really wonder if the Bulldogs were in 2A instead of 1A, would they still be dominating like this? Because that team is extremely strong.
We have to see. And I could see the difference between like the Henlopen and the Bayside. The Bayside, we have a couple different teams, maybe at least 4 or 5 of them that could all make a strong claim from number 1. But because of the way that the Henlopen is all split up, some teams, a lot of the better teams are in, the 3A compared to like the 2A and the 1A, where there's just clear titans and then everyone else is just far behind them. Now, when we come back, the Delaware Supreme Court changed the way residents are able to cast their ballots. Plus, we have that forecast to take a look at the weekend weather.
I am McKenna Horner with the Washington High Jaguars, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.